Kaivalya Om Om Klim Kaivalya Kaivalya Om Klim Kaivalya
Namaste. Let us begin the class with 3 Oms. Namaste and welcome to Kaivalya Yoga Gurukulam for this class on Kaivalya Marga, the path to oneness, the path to self-actualization, the path to realizing that there is one consciousness and nothing else, just one consciousness. Everything is a manifestation of that one Tattva, the Brahman, Purusha, Shiva, Narayana, Allah, the Christ, the Buddha, whatever we call. In today's class, we are going to study another way to look at the same reality. So I will be referring to the Sankhya chart that we have studied now for so many days. We'll go back and forth, but we will look at it from the point of view of the Pancha Koshas. Pancha Koshas, as you see in the slide below, and if you notice in the screen there is background, it's black behind me. So when we were out on the internet, this is something we have been trying. So just different ways of presenting difficult concepts. So let us see if this thing works. All right, Pancha Koshas. Pancha Koshas. Pancha means 5. We have understood that word by now. We should have understood that word because we have Pancha Bhutas, 5 elements, Pancha Tanmatras, 5 subtle elements, Pancha Jnanendriyas, 5 senses of cognition, Pancha Karmendriyas, 5 senses of action. So we have all 5 Pancha, 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 Pancha. So Pancha should be clear to us. Now, where is my slide? Wait 1 second. Oh, there you go. Sorry. Crucial. So today we are going to study this, Panchakoshas. I found this very beautiful picture. All these images are purchased. There is no copyright infringement. They are royalty free, and I've got that permission to publish these. Just a disclaimer, putting it out there. All right. So why are we in this path to Kaivalya? The goal, as we understood even before we studied the Sankhya, when we approached gunas, the study of the gunas or the 3 qualities, is basically to understand the real self. Who am I? Where is the self that we are talking about? I am so comfortable thinking I am Sundar, I am 5 feet 5 inches or 5 feet 6 inches, I am 59 years old or 60 years old, and I am very comfortable thinking like that, right? That is how I think about it when I go to sleep. That is the first thought that comes to me in the morning, not as a thought, but as a subconscious awareness that this is who I am. But then now comes this Vedanta, this philosophy, the path of Kaivalya, that wakes me up, shakes me up, and tells me, wait a minute, you are not this. You are limiting yourself to believing you are Sundar. So the question comes then, okay, then who am I? Right? That is where, that is why we are all in this path. That is why we are struggling to understand the supreme principle. We have a preceptor, a Sadguru who guides us, who teaches us. We invoke this path through emotions, through prayer, through bhakti. We begin to open the doors to experience this awareness, expansion of awareness, increased dimensions of consciousness through the path of yoga, cleansing the body, cleansing the mind, and so on. And then we have these philosophically bent classes, and with an eye towards practicing it. These classes where we apply our mind, our intuition, our comprehension skills, mati, if you will, to grasp this reality of what is this higher self within me? Who, who am I? Where is this real I hidden? Right? So I'll keep saying that because that puts things in perspective. Otherwise, you get disillusioned when the path becomes rough, if you will, or there is a storm in the sea. Then you'll say, "Oh, there's no use of all this. I just want to go back and be normal. I was happy where I was." You see, when the squirrel comes out in spring, I'm sorry, the groundhog, squirrels don't really hibernate in winter in Cleveland here, at least. I can say because I see this in the backyard. So, and we feed them throughout the winter. So, the groundhog, we have a family living under our deck. So, the groundhog retires into hibernation in winter. When the spring comes, the groundhog peeps out. He's beginning to stretch out and come out. And the little bit of noise, he rushes back. Because for the last 6-8 months, that has become his comfort zone. And it takes a lot of patience and sheer hunger that drives him out and makes him begin to eat leaves because he has not been eating for the last 6 months or so. My point here is that when we begin on this path, and one upon one we begin to add complexities to our understanding, right? We started with 21 ohms, and then we began to understand the Sankhya, then the three gunas. Now comes the five koshas. There is layers and layers and layers added. So what happens is there will be a tendency to say, "Oh gosh, this is getting too complicated. I just want to go back and go back to where I was." Is that wrong? Is that right? It is entirely an individual's approach. How badly do you need this realization? How badly do you want to get to this goal? If a father wants to, let's say the father is traveling and his child, 5-year-old child, has her 5th birthday and he has promised her he will be there on her birthday. How desperate he is to come home back to his daughter. Now, if he sits back and says, I would love to come, my dear, but I'm not getting my business class ticket, so I really can't come, and I don't see myself traveling in economy class, so I don't think I can come. It's just too difficult for me in the economy class. I've never done that before. It's all, I can't sit with peasants, as they call it. I've heard some people call it a peasant class. Well, we are peasants. Anyway, the point here is he says, I can't come in economy class. I can come only in business class. I don't have tickets. So what happens? You don't get to the birthday. Is that right or wrong? Neither. If the father really wants to get to the daughter's birthday and tickets are not available in business class, in an airplane, for example, I'm talking of flights, then he would say, I don't care. I don't care if I have to take economy class. I don't care if I have to switch flights. I don't care if I have to go around the world, but I need to be there for my daughter's birthday. Was that? I need to be there for my daughter's birthday. So give me 1 second. There seems to be some disturbance here. Um, Let me see if I can reduce this shimmering a little bit. Okay. So I need to be there for my, I'm going to keep this on, Maya, so that in case there is something. All right. Sorry about that. So the father says, I need to desperately get to my daughter's birthday. Right? So then he would take any path that is available, any means of travel that is available, because the aim, the attitude is, I need to go home. So whatever comes my way, I'm going to try it. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I will do all of this. This is called bhava. Bhava, or the attitude behind all of these practices. Why am I doing yoga? Should I do 15 minutes? Should I do half an hour? Can I do in the morning? Can I do in the evening? Apart from the physical implications of all this, from the point of view of safety and health, like don't do it immediately after food and all of that. Apart from that, all the other things really fade into insignificance when you understand, why am I doing this? I need to get this vision of my higher self. If my higher self is none other than my Sadguru, my God, then I need to get there. I need to go back to Vaikuntha. I need to go back to Kailasa. I need to go back to the supreme state. With so many yogis, so many rishis, for thousands of years have told us that that is our home, where avatara purushas or incarnations of the cosmic being has walked the earth, lived like you and me, and taught us. So that is the approach here, right? It is not to gain scholarship or becoming philosophers. It is not to satisfy our ego. It is that if there is the path of jnana, if I have to read books, I will read books. If I have to practice yoga and cleanse my body, I will. If I have to cleanse my breath, I will. If I have to cleanse my mind, I will. I will do all that it takes to go there. Then when you do that effort, the effort itself will attract grace. This has been my path and my experience. And this is the way Baba trained us in all fields. He never said, oh, bhajans are no use, no, it's all emotional, just stick to Advaita Vedanta. He taught us Advaita Vedanta also. And then at the same time, he would also make us sing bhajans every day. Because there is no one path. All of this gives you an attitude of constantly being in that spiritual atmosphere. So satsangs are as important as yoga practice, and that is as important as a class like this. Okay? So even though this was not part of my agenda, I think I was inspired to share this with you all, and this will be how we approach this path to Kaivalya. And trust me, you will begin to invoke the grace of the Almighty, our own higher self. And it doesn't matter if you think it is somebody else out there. It really doesn't matter at this point. You begin to invoke that grace. Doors begin to open. And that peace that you enjoy, even with that little glimpse, little experiences, a little glimpse, the peace that begins to settle will never leave you for lifetimes to come. So, having said that, our aim to understand here is this Pancha Koshas. Koshas, Pancha we know is 5. Koshas are sheaths. Sheaths means covers. You know, there's a sword is kept inside a sheath. Why? Because a sword is sharp. Or a knife in your kitchen is kept inside a sheath. You pull it out of the sheath, it does the work, and it goes inside. So according to Vedanta, if you see this picture here, the center, the sun, if you will, is the Atmic principle, the spiritual principle, the eternal principle, the supreme Guru, Dakshinamurti, the Rama principle, however we want to address it. Our higher self is inside and is covered by 5 layers. 5 layers. Not one, 5 layers. And so today we are going to get an idea of what these layers are. In traditional yoga practice, there is practices for each of these layers. They're not watertight compartments as separate. But it begins with cleansing the body, understanding and cleansing. Because once you cleanse the sheath, it becomes transparent. Then you can see the next sheath inside. If that sheath is covered and is dirty, then you won't even know what is inside. Right? That is what happens when, or that is how I take it when I see people telling me, what is the use of all this? Just eat and be merry. Yaar. Why are you doing all this? I will like to sleep late. I like to eat a lot of food. I'm not going to bother with all this. Then I know that that sheet is covered by so much of preconditioned mindset and assumptions that there is no way that individual is going to look even within. Correct? And so there's no point blaming him, because it's that very approach that has to be changed. Right? By forcing that person, look, it's not going to happen. Or wake him up or her early in the morning, it's not going to happen. But you got to educate them. And that's the purpose here. Education will lead us to Shravana, listening, Manana, contemplation, and then slowly begin to assimilate. Okay, let's begin Panchakoshas here. And I'm going to go back and forth with the chart that I have. As very soon you're not going to like the chart. You know which chart I'm talking about, right? The Sankhya chart, the famous Sankhya chart. But unless we get that in the depths of our sleep, that chart should be clear in our head. So we'll go back and forth and compare where these koshas, how can this be applied to that chart. Okay, the way I have understood it. All right. Okay. So what is the first sheath? There you are, right in front of you, very clear. Annamaya Kosha. Annamaya. Maya means surrounded by, created by. So what is this sheath created by? What is this sheath? What is the material of the sheath? Right? Annam. Annam means food. In other words, matter. This sheath, Annamaya Kosha, which is the physical sheath. This physical sheath, which is broadly understood as body. This body, how is it sustained? Sustained by food. Okay. So this is the Annamaya Kosha. The first sheath, the outermost sheath, that we can relate to. Why do I like yoga? It is because of this. If I straight away begin to play with, tamper with, if you will, or meditate upon, or begin to explore more subtler sheaths that is inside this sheath or outside this sheath, we don't know that. Because soon this inside, outside, all of that goes. But because we call it sheath, let's understand it by going within. So this is the outermost sheath. So if I have to go within, I go straight away to the fourth or the fifth sheath without understanding the Annamaya Kosha, without able to handle the Annamaya Kosha. I'm going to keep calling it Annamaya Kosha, but you have the slide in front of you. It's called the physical sheath. Anna means food. Remember that. That's one term. Food sheath. Without understanding this physical sheath, my search, I have found, is very incomplete. Beyond a point, I will not be able to penetrate or understand, because there is a big obstacle created by the physical sheath. And therefore, it is important to cleanse the physical sheath. This is where yoga, pranayama, all of that comes into play. Now, you might say, but I'm 70 years old, I'm 80 years old. There is no way I'm going to do yoga. Mind you, yoga, in one sense, is physical, but I'm not talking of asanas alone. There are many ways to cleanse this physical body. With asanas and pranayama and bandhas and kriyas, which are ideally taught to younger children at a younger age, or we learn it at a younger age, the path becomes easier and faster. Right? But if we don't do that and we adopt more subtler methods, which are more powerful, but it needs a more intense lifestyle that surrounds it. So we will explore these things as we go along. Today we are just going to understand what these sheaths are. Okay, don't worry about, oh my gosh, I can't do this, I can't do that, and all that. We are not going to discuss techniques under these koshas. We are just going to merely understand what these koshas are. Annamaya Kosha, physical sheath. So this is the body, the muscles, the bones, the tissues, the cells, the organs, everything that is sustained by food. So if you go now, if you go to this, let's see, there you go. If you go to this chart, and look at this chart, physical manifestation, the Annamaya Kosha relates to what? What do you in your body relate to? We relate to, if you look at the rightmost column, Pancha Bhutas, it is called the 5 elements. These are gross manifestations. You find these in your body. So that is where the Annamaya Kosha is related. So when we do practices of the Annamaya Kosha, we begin to understand the 5 basic elements that comprise our body and creation at large and our connection with that universe, right? So that is space, wind, fire, water, and matter, which is earth, right? So Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Jala, and Prithvi. That is in the rightmost column. You will, let me draw your attention here. So this is where it is. This is Annamaya Kosha. Okay? That is the Annamaya Kosha. All right. The word itself speaks a lot. From only a health point of view, even if this whole self-realization, actualization becomes too difficult for anyone to comprehend, even from a simple health point of view, please understand that the word Annamaya means this sheath that is sustained by food, can be nourished by food, can be destroyed by food. Everything is done by food, predominantly. I've been exchanging quite a few texts with a lot of people who come to me with some medical issues, and I'm not a doctor to cure them, but we discuss ways and means. One thing, please understand, and let us be very clear about this. Whether you have blood pressure problems, anxiety disorders, heart problems, diabetes, sugar problems, kidneys, whatever it is, right? Everything is related to the body. 80% of that can be controlled with annam, food. The rest of it is all practices, yoga and all of that. Please understand that food is what helps nourish this body. Food is what cures the body. But food can also destroy the body. Just because you're eating a lot and 4 times a day doesn't mean that you're going to be healthy. So that is a very important implication of Annamaya Kosha that you have to understand. That is why the word itself says Annamaya Kosha. The sheath is nurtured by food. So that means what? Implications are that whether it is our brain that you see on the slide here, whether it is muscles and tissues that you see here, all of these are sustained by the food, what you eat. This is what, and what you drink. This is what keeps us active. This is what keeps us alive. There is a quote which Baba would tell us very often, playfully and jokingly, but I took it very seriously. And the quote was, a person who eats once a day is a yogi. A person who eats twice a day is a bhogi. A person who eats 3 times a day is a rogi. And he used to quote this. This has been for many, many hundreds of years. This quote has been on, I would think so. But I took it seriously when I was listening. I was like, I'm practicing yoga. I want to be that yogi. And so over the years, and I'm saying this because over the years now, we have come to a point, and Maya joined the bandwagon 28 odd years ago when we got married. So she joined the bandwagon, and together we have come to a point now for quite a few years. We eat 1 meal a day. And it's just a big bowl of salad. And if I'm really hungry, I have 1 more helping of salad. So it's 1 big bowl of salad, and I have some kind of protein shake or something, or a fruit shake or some yogurt in the afternoon if I feel hungry. But when you eat that raw food, a lot of energy goes inside the body, and the body is able to sustain it. We will talk about this more in detail when it comes to certain lifestyle choices and when we discuss the fire element and all of that in the course of these classes. But please understand at this point Food is the biggest factor that can cause disease or that can cure disease, no matter what your age, no matter what your complication. Please understand that. So, and then of course there are, depending on people's age, depending on what medication they are on, you can't just jump and say, all right, I'm also going to eat once. You can't just do that, right? So I'm saying this all with caution, very mindfully. I'm placing it out there as a disclaimer also. Please don't just try and blindly copy it, because you won't be able to sustain it. You will do it for 1 week, 2 weeks, and then you'll just go right back, because the body won't be able to sustain it. It's a matter of slow. Make up your mind. Be very clear that Annamaya Kosha, I'm going to watch what kind of food goes into my body. Okay? So, predominantly, let us understand that. Now, if you go and sit at Baba's feet, he would say what kind of food goes in, not only through your mouth, what kind of food goes in through your ears, through your nose, through your eyes, and he'll add more layers to it. But so we'll understand all of that. I'm not saying all of that to discourage you, but I'm just putting it out there that when you sit at the feet of these great Sadgurus, these Avatara Purushas, and begin to listen to them, you understand what heights they are in. Where do they want you to go? What height? They come with that mission. I want to raise the consciousness of human beings. I want to raise them beyond this. And that is why for them, what is there? They'll say, make up your mind and just start off. And so treat me as a friend here. And I've been in this path, so I know how difficult or easy it is. One thing you have to be clear is the clarity of mind, the clarity of perception is very, very important when you begin to undertake these paths and begin to understand. First, understand my body is sustained by food. So, does that mean I have to eat more? No. The other side says my body is also destroyed by food, the quality of food. Please understand that clearly. Food can build you, nurture you, give you life. Food can also take your life. Depends on what kind of food you have to eat. Okay? So, this is the Annamaya Kosha. Then we come to Pranamaya Kosha. So this is the outermost sheath, right? Something which cannot touch and see and feel, all of this. Then comes to something more subtle, Prana. Prana, I know I can feel it, because the gross expression of, or gross manifestation of Prana, I have used the same Sanskrit word pranic sheath below there. Because prana, there is no English word that I have come across which I feel comfortable. So if I were to take a class, I will rather have you learn this as one new English word, if if it's required. Prana is prana. Is it life force? Is it the sustaining principle in this universe that all living beings depend upon? Maybe, but prana is prana. Those are synonymous metaphors that can give you an idea. So if you want to call it life force in your mind, you could. But prana, for those of you who understand Sanskrit, and when you use this word in many of the Indian languages, prana means life. Right? It is what, that energy is what distinguishes between a corpse and a living being. Both are lying down on the ground, let us say. Both are still. One is asleep, one is dead. How do you know? Because of prana. That movement of prana. So there are many types of prana and all of that. And that prana, which is such an important life force, if it is controlled, it can help in evolution of consciousness. Prana is the key that connects the sheath from the Annamaya to the next sheath inside. Prana is that. So prana you can feel because of the breath going in and out. Breath becomes the vehicle for the prana. So you know it exists, but can you see prana? You cannot see prana. Can you feel prana? You cannot feel prana. You can feel the breath, but you cannot feel prana. But you know it exists. Why? Because you're alive. The fact that you're alive, there is a life force inside you. Right? So that is Pranamaya Kosha. Pranamaya Kosha. A great deal of prana is got from many sources. I mentioned this in the short video that we had in one of the satsangs on Hanuman in the Hanuman temple, and it's worth repeating here. Prana, this life force, if you will, prana is got from space, through sound. Prana is got through the air, through breathing. That is why a lot of it we can understand through breath. And it's very effective through the breath. That's why we have pranayama. Pranayama is control of prana, not control of breath, as you would popularly understand. Breath is a means, exercise in breathing is a means to control that prana. So, prana is derived from the sun, the fire element. Prana is derived from space, as I said, from the sound element, from the way you speak, the way you. That's why somebody motivates you, speaks very well, you get motivated. What was that energy that came to you? Prana. Right? Prana is very important. Imagine this story, beautiful story of Jesus Christ. He goes to this dead man, Lazarus, right? Lazarus. And he looks at him. How does he bring prana into his body? He just says, "Wake up, Lazarus." He speaks to him. In speech, he transfers prana. In speech, he transfers prana. So this is why getting initiated by Sadgurus, getting initiated into a mantra and all gained prominence, because through words they could, if they really, really lived that, where every word of them, every word that came out of their mouth was precious, like these incarnations of the Supreme Consciousness, like Jesus. As an example, he spoke and prana comes. So prana can come through space, through sound. Prana can come through the breath. Prana can come, and of course, Hanuman is a great example again of space. By simply chanting the name of Rama, he became so powerful and he could do things that he did. Prana comes through fire, which is the heat from the sun. We derive life force. Prana comes through water, through the water we drink. Prana comes through food that we eat. Pranamaya Kosha, therefore the life force inside you. So the actual food that you eat also sustains the body, also sustains the Pranamaya Kosha. So if I go back to this chart here, if Annamaya, I'm just going to compare one more point I just missed in the Annamaya Kosha. Sorry to go back there. But Annamaya Kosha was this, and it also talked about the Karmendriyas. Because these are also physical actions, right? Now, Pranamaya Kosha also talks about the same thing, but it adds this Jnana Indriyas to it. The left two columns come under Pranamaya Kosha. The left two columns come under Pranamaya Kosha. So if you look at the leftmost column, the Jnana Indriyas, the functions of cognition, which is hearing, touching, seeing, tasting, smelling, all of that affects the Pranamaya Kosha. This is, so just like we talked about Annamaya Kosha and how food was so important, in Pranamaya Kosha, this is where sense control becomes very important. Sense control, breath control, pranayama practices begin to affect the Pranamaya Kosha. Now the Pranamaya Kosha is living in the Annamaya Kosha. So for those of us who cannot practice exercises and yoga and all in the Annamaya Kosha as effectively because of age or physical fitness or whatever, then they begin to focus, and they must focus on the Pranamaya Kosha practices. So the prana becomes really strong, and that in turn begins to feed into the body and revive the cells and tissues and muscles in the body. Okay? That doesn't mean you can eat junk food and practice pranayama. Now, when you go to the internet and they would say, do a particular breath, it'll give you liberation, or you do a course, or you do something they give you and they charge you a lot of fees and you pay a lot of things and you come up with a technique and you think that is a technique, that's an answer. I'm sorry, that is not the way Baba taught us of any one particular technique. It's a lifestyle. The entire lifestyle has to matter. So if you ignore Annamaya Kosha completely and eat junk food and practice pranayama exercises and pranamaya kosha and stand in front of the sun, it will benefit you to only some extent. It will not get you the entire picture. So please understand all of these in context. When I say that those of you cannot spend so much time in Annamaya Kosha exercises and so on, can you do something in Pranamaya, Manomaya? You could, but you have to now also take care of the Annamaya Kosha, not from exercise point of view. Like I said, 80% of it anyway depends on the food. So no matter what our age, we can all focus on the kind of food that goes into the Annamaya Kosha, then go into Pranamaya. Okay? So that is Pranamaya Kosha. Pranic sheath. Now here if you see in Prana is the life force. I just put these pictures because I know that the mind understands better. A picture is worth 1,000 words. So when we talk of pranic healing, a lot of prana is exchanged through the air, through the sense of touch. So you have healers. Why would we seek to touch Baba's feet? Why would we want to go to our Guru and get blessed? Why would we want him to do this Abhaya Hasta to us? Why would we want him to? Because here he is sending prana. He's sending prana there. He's sending prana to you. He's sending prana. When he does this, that prana just flows from his body into us. Distance doesn't matter at that point. So prana can be conveyed through your palms. Sense of touch is one of the important ways for us to understand prana. Pranamaya Kosha is where your consciousness, the sense of I, begins to go beyond the body. It begins to expand. Now you would say, wait a minute. You just said these 5 sheaths and the I, the supreme I is somewhere inside me, right? So when we talk like that, when we say the I is within me, who am I? So I'm going to go within into my sheaths. That is our logical mind, the way we understand it. One sheath into the other, so the I must be somewhere inside. That is how we begin. But when you begin to understand what this true journey is, the concept of inside and outside begins to get blurry. So don't get caught up in the nuances of these words and the meanings. Prana is inside the breath. Pay attention here. Breath is a vehicle for prana. Just like the driver sits inside his car, he drives out to work and comes back home. Prana exists and comes back. It gets re-energized every time. There's a lot of prana exchanged through the breath. So, Pranamaya Kosha, this sheath of prana, goes out through the breath, comes in through the breath. So, is it inside or is it outside? Does it have to have an or there? No. And it is inside and outside. Prana is all around us. That is why Hanuman is the embodiment of prana. Prana is all around us. Every living being, every tree, every plant, everything in this dimension of this world, in this physical dimension, on this earth, on this planet. Let's focus here. Everything depends on prana. So, prana is inside your body, outside your body. You take a little bit and begin to control it inside, then it goes out. So a part of you as a pranamaya, as a sheath, because you are inside that sheath, if that sheath is outside, again, you are going only outside the Annamaya Kosha. Because you will understand in the end, the real I is everywhere. Prana itself takes your mind beyond. That's why I got this picture where you begin to see that connection between you and the universe. You begin to understand all of that galaxies, all the stars, and all of that is just connected with me. The rhythm in my breath is reflecting the rhythm in the cosmos. For those of you who attend the yoga classes, this becomes very clear because we practice in Shavasana. We say the rhythm of the breath, the rhythm of the pulse, the rhythm of your heart. And there is a rhythm of the universe, ebb and flow of the waves, rising and setting of the sun, day and night cycles, cyclical phases of the moon, the cycles of the seasons, rotation of planets around the sun, the rotation of Earth on its own axis, birth and death of stars and galaxies. Everything is a rhythm. Now you understand why pranayama you practice in that rhythm. Because it helps you to tune into the cosmic rhythm. 1:2. 1:2. Cosmic rhythm. Breathe in for 1 count, breathe out for 2 counts, breathe in for 4 counts, breathe out for 8 counts. Ratio is always 1:2. So that is Pranamaya Kosha. Now the eye begins to go beyond, goes into the Pranamaya Kosha, right? Then comes the Manomaya Kosha. Inside the Pranamaya Kosha, which is now already this inside outside, like I said, it gets blurry. So be very patient. I'm trying to be as slow and clear as possible. So inside this Pranamaya Kosha, and this Pranamaya Kosha inside or outside, it's everywhere. So inside this Pranamaya Kosha, which is all around us, lies the Manomaya Kosha. So where is the mind? Is it local? No. The mind is not local. We would like to believe the mind is somewhere inside here. The brain is here. The brain begins to experience the mind. We would like to believe that mind is sitting somewhere inside these chakras and the chakras are somehow inside us. No. So we will get to understand chakras better now. But we have to have a starting point. So it's good to visualize all of this. Okay, so don't get confused there. But the mind is not local. You could be sitting right now and looking at me on this TV screen or iPad screen or phone. Close your eyes and you can travel with your thoughts anywhere. Just close your eyes and choose a spot or a place you want to be right now and mentally go to that place. And open your eyes. In a matter of seconds, you could be there instantaneously. Through Manomaya Kosha, the eye has traveled there. We call it daydreaming and all of that, right? Hey, come on, be here. Where are you? Where are you? We ask. Somebody is not paying attention, right? Where are you? Be here and now. So Manomaya Kosha is even more subtler than Pranamaya Kosha. Prana I know exists and I can feel it through the breath. At least I can feel the vehicle that contains the prana, right? Though I can't feel the prana directly, I can feel the effect of prana and I can feel the vehicle, breath. I can deal with the heat from the sun, the warmth from the sun. I can relate to the sounds of a space and so on, prana. Now go even more subtler mind. Where is the mind? Is there a physical location for the mind? No. Can you pinpoint and say this is the mind? No. And yet you and I know it exists. It's even more powerful. It's even more powerful. So now let me see how I don't know what picture it was. Okay, here. I love these pictures because they give us an idea where the mind, you think it exists inside your head, but these are artists' versions of these beautiful drawings. And then it just goes expanding. The mind can expand. When you hear people say, think out of the box, when you hear people say, don't get conditioned by your thinking, this is what it means. Spiritual practices like yoga, pranayama, begin to challenge our conditioned mindsets. So in an asana, when you hold a pose for a little longer than you like, you become so uncomfortable that you want to run away from discomfort. You want to run back away. You want to get out of that asana. But then you stay there and you learn to breathe and you begin to focus. You're reconditioning what? The body, yes. That is a training of the body. But you're using the body as a tool. But what you're really reconditioning is the mind. The mind is learning to stay in that most uncomfortable pose and not convince the body to get out, not wanting to run away, but stay in that pose and make peace with that pose. So asana practices help in controlling the mind. So Manomaya Kosha is something even more subtler. So there are practices for Manomaya Kosha. There are kriyas, there are bandhas, all of them affect. So now you see how subtle and how tightly integrated these koshas are, right? Please don't understand them, and when you meditate upon them, which you should after these classes, each class, I want to make it meditative in nature. That's why I'm giving these pictures as well. Hopefully it stays that way. The idea is when you meditate on these koshas, you begin to understand how intertwined they are. And that real close proximity of one kosha to the other, they look almost similar. right? But they are not watertight compartments. Each one relies on the other, nourishes the other, and so on. But the more subtler you go, the more difficult your practice becomes because of our lifestyle choice. If you're living in an ashram and you're doing this day in and day out, then it becomes easier for you to, let's say, control the mind, go into higher dimensions of consciousness and all of that, because there's nothing else. You're practicing. It's directly related to the more hours you put in, more practice that you do, and you have a teacher to guide you. But given that that is not available, going straight into meditation and saying, I meditated half an hour every day for 6 years, nothing has happened. Nothing will happen. Something will happen, definitely. Let me take that back. Something will happen, but it will be very slow and very subtle, hardly any difference, right? So for me, and the way I approach this is I say, all right, let me start with the Annamaya Kosha. Practice something for Annamaya Kosha, practice something for Pranamaya Kosha, practice something for Manomaya Kosha. Attack all these koshas at once. Just like that dad said, I will take a car, I will take a truck, I will take a bus, I will take economy class, whatever it is, I want to reach my daughter's birthday, I want to go back home. So I will take whatever means available to me. And so there are practices for Manomaya Kosha. This is where mantra chanting, japa yoga, and all of that comes into Manomaya Kosha. Again, if you practice only japa and you ignore the Pranamaya Kosha, if you ignore the Annamaya Kosha, if you are constantly throwing dirt in your space through sounds that come in and go out of your mouth, then how much ever japa you do, that sound is not going to have impact on the mind, especially the subconscious mind, because the rest of the time, apart from that 15 minutes, you are engaging in sounds which are completely creating chaos. So in that chaos, a little bit of cleaning is not going to help. Correct? So understand all of this in the right context. Okay. But having said that, there are powerful mantras, and those mantras go a long way in beginning to cleanse. So don't lose hope. But you cannot do that in isolation. You need a lifestyle that surrounds it. You need a value system that surrounds it. You need an attitude that surrounds it. All of that, you have to create that environment. Salokya, to attain the oneness with God, the Vedanta talks about it, and I mentioned this in Hanuman Chalisa as well, in the satsangs. Salokya is first you enter the Salokya. You enter this world of spirituality. In other words, you adopt this lifestyle. Then you have Sarupya. Then you get a name and a form. Then you become Samipya. Then you get closer to that name and form. And then finally Sayujya. So Salokya is important. Without a lifestyle, without yamas and niyamas, without a philosophy, without an environment, it is very, very difficult for us to go progress. That is why 9 out of 10 of us, we jump from one book to another, one guru to another, one school of thought to another. Just go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But if we understand that it is all up to me to practice it, and I take systematically, then we begin to incur the grace of the Supreme. So Manomaya Kosha is that mental sheath. If you go back to the drawing here, Manomaya Kosha is right here. So let me Manomaya Kosha as impacts all of this, right? But Manas is here. Manas is here. Now you're getting to a place where you're beginning to focus on the purity aspect. Manomaya Kosha is where you begin to taste what is Sattva. What is Sattva? Sattva, we talked about it in the 3 gunas. So in Manomaya Kosha is what it gives you a glimpse of Sattva. That is, when we talk of peace of mind, it's not imagination. It's true. You're harnessing the energy of the Manomaya Kosha. There are times when that kosha has become clear. In a bhajan, for example, if you're listening to a lovely kirtan or a song or music, if you see a painting or if you see a child's face, innocent face of a baby sleeping or something, a flower maybe. We never know what triggers when, right? Something triggers, and there's a moment where your mind begins to just withdraws, and goes into that pure sattva state, and then comes back again and gets mixed. So those are glimpses. Manomaya Kosha, now you're getting into a more subtle aspect. So Whereas Annamaya Kosha and Pranamaya Kosha deal with all of this. Manomaya Kosha has the energy where you begin to leave behind these gross. So let us see, if you go back to that chart here, you are leaving behind Manomaya Kosha. When you begin to attack Manomaya Kosha or touch Manomaya Kosha, all of this entire thing slowly begins to fade away, begins to lose interest. Okay? This is what we mean by meditation. Practices in meditation, practices in japa, practices in learning slokas and all of that. All of that comes into that. Singing bhajans, kirtans, developing an emotional path towards the Supreme Consciousness, allowing poetry and feeling to open your heart chakra. There, you begin to experience mind without getting pulled by these cognitive functions, functions of actions, functions of cognitions, earth and fire and space. None of these elements begin. The mind begins to become free. So Manomaya Kosha becomes even more powerful. Where is the mind? Manomaya Kosha is inside Pranamaya Kosha. If Pranamaya Kosha is all around, then Manomaya Kosha is already you have touched now omnipresence. In Manomaya Kosha, the mind is not local. But you might say, but I can see it. Why am I not experiencing what is happening in some place? I don't know. Let's say I'm in US here. So why can't I experience something in New Zealand or something in Australia or something in India? Why can't I experience that? You can't, because at 24 hours a day, I am telling myself that my mind is confined inside my body. Right? So think about that. But when you get those breaks in meditation, so when you begin to practice a spiritual practice in yoga, then suddenly you get these visions where mind crosses the barriers of time and space. That is where you begin to you cross dimensions of different layers of reality. So all of the chakra meditation, all of that comes in this Manomaya Kosha, where you begin to access different layers and different dimensions. You come across energy principles in certain forms, deities, and so on. You get the visions. Then you begin to understand there are so many layers to this reality. The mind gives you that. The mind gives you that. The mind is never confined to you. It just goes, has all this, it goes beyond the prana. Right? I got this lovely picture where the mind releases. A little child is releasing butterflies from a jar, I think. Yeah, it's a jar. So, Baba would tell us very often, mind is responsible for bondage and liberation. Just like food is responsible for health or disease, in Manomaya Kosha, mind is responsible for bondage or liberation. Manasyeva manushyanam karanam bandham mokshayoho. Manaseva, mind alone is responsible whether you are bound or whether you are liberated. That is why, in one way of looking at self-realization is a matter of perspective. Ultimately, even all of this is a matter of perspective. What is real? It depends on your perception. So, Manomaya Kosha becomes even more subtle. Food nurtures you or destroys you, Annamaya Kosha, the Annamaya Kosha. Prana can bring in a lot of focused energy into your body, or take the energy and what do you call, spread that, waste away the life force. It's called wasting life force, right? Wasting energy. That happens at the Pranamaya Kosha. The same energy can be brought together, right? Just like you have a magnifying lens, you can focus the sun's rays to cause a little flame in a piece of paper, right? Or if it's not, then it's not focused, then that energy is all over the place. So Pranamaya Kosha helps you to understand the life force and the energy. Manomaya Kosha helps you to understand this energy of the mind, which can liberate you or which can cause bondage. Okay? So that is the mental sheath. And again, there are practices for mental. Then you have Vijnanamaya Kosha. Vijnanamaya Kosha is the sheath of intuition. Now you're getting even more beyond the mind. Mind at least depends on senses for information, right? And mind begins to work in creative ways. Then that leads you into this intuition. Intuition is not, well, we use it very lightly nowadays, because I just felt it intuitively. Not that it's wrong, but it's a lot more to this word intuition. Again, the right word is dhi, buddhi. But this intuition is much more. Why? Because intuition doesn't depend on anything physical for information. It's like the sixth sense, as they call it, as you and I understand it today. But that can be developed. That is there. That is one sheath that covers. That sheath has to be understood and cleansed. And when you begin to understand that, that opens up even more and brings all these higher dimensions to reality. Vijnanamaya Kosha, intuition. This is where you begin to glimpse that I that contains all the three gunas, the ahankara principle. See, this I here in this chart, this ahankara state here, this ahankara is not a different I from what you and I are experiencing. It's the same I, but just this I is now slowly going beyond the sheets. You begin to understand, oh, that is the I that contains all of this creation is contained in this I. When I don't exist, I draw in all the creations into me. I know it sounds like, wow, seriously, but it is true. It is true that the I creates all of this because I comes with the three gunas. And then you begin to realize, I am the one who creates. I am the one who sustains this universe. I am the one who dissolves this universe into my own consciousness. I am eternal. That level of understanding comes not through logical reasoning. So stop thinking too much. That is where prayer, meditation begins to come in, because that is the only way to go there. You cannot logically think your way into this, because our logical thinking depends on what? On language, on some kind of logic, some kind of analysis. And all of these are conditioned by way of what kind of education has been given to me. In modern education, there is nothing that helps you in developing intuition. In modern regular school education and college education, right? Nothing helps you develop intuition. Intuition is taught by ashrams and gurus who teach you the concept of meditation that begins to open these doors to the Vijnanamaya Kosha. Vijnanamaya Kosha, intuition. This is where you begin to understand that I am the one that everything is created through me. When you reach these, when you begin to understand the power of that sheath and how transparent that sheath is, you begin to see the Mahat Tattva like the Buddha saw. This is where enlightenment begins to unfold. That is why I love this picture. The Vijnanamaya Kosha begins to open that. That is why in Gayatri we say Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. So it is a door that connects from Ahankara into the Mahat principle, into the brilliance. The door that connects is this Vijna. The sheath, once it removes, the Ahankara begins to merge back into that brilliant Mahat principle. If you remember the chart. Okay? So that is Vijnanamaya Kosha. And finally, there is the Anandamaya Kosha. Give me 5 more minutes. Because these, at these most subtler levels, we can talk as much as we want, but the lesser said, the better. That's why I spend more time at Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, because those are where we really need to focus on in this lifetime, at least for me, I can speak. And those are ones I can really teach you. Beyond that, then you'll begin to take reins in your own hands and you'll begin to understand what is Vijnanamaya Kosha and Anandamaya. Anandamaya Kosha is where Mahat, the Mahat Tattva, this, the brilliance, you begin to experience. The I begins, see, it's a very tricky situation, because in Mahat, pure Mahat, the I is not there. From Mahat comes the I. So you're going back home. So there is that period where going back home, the Buddha is merging into the light, if you will, in that picture. If you see, uh, if you want to stretch your imagination there to understand the concept, the form is going to the formless. The I is merging into the Mahat, pure brilliance. That is considered to be the most blissful. It's like this father coming home. Now he's parked the car in the garage and he's going to surprise his 5-year-old on the birthday. That joy that is potentially in the child, and the joy in father that he made it to his daughter's birthday is priceless, incredible, right? That is that a glimpse, if you will, of the Anandamaya Kosha. Ananda is Ananda is bliss, simply to put it, but Ananda has no antonym, if you will. Joy as an antonym, sorrow, but Ananda has nothing. Ananda is absolute bliss. It's not a relative term here, because you're going back to that pure brilliance state. Pure brilliance. The I is gone, right? Sundar is gone. So don't say, why am I not experiencing? You will not be that experience. The I is gone there. It's going into Mahat. So Anandamaya Kosha is that state where the I begins to completely merge into brilliance. Complete brilliance. From the form to the formless. That is what it is. Where you are now only filled in brilliant light. So the manifestation of Gayatri Mantra happens here. The fructification of Gayatri Mantra happens here. The grace of a supreme guru like Sri Dakshinamurti, about whom we are studying at this point in this class, as we are doing this class in the nightly satsangs. This is where Mahyam Medham Prajnam Prayachaswaha. Open that Mahat back. That joy is so supreme, so supreme. Even a taste of that fills you with layers and layers and layers and layers of bliss. A taste of that. That is Anandamaya Kosha. And that's it. Beyond that is what? Beyond that is enlightenment. Where Purusha and Prakriti go back to that primordial state. Prakriti goes back to her. And then that one vritti, that Prakriti has to merge into Purusha. That's all. So there is Samprajnata Samadhi at this point. And then there is Asamprajnata Samadhi. We'll study Yoga Sutras soon. And so when we understand that, we will get a better idea. So that final vritti of Prakriti and Purusha, because from Mahat, I go back to that being the Bindu. And then beyond the Bindu, Suryatita. Beyond the Bindu, I merge into this Purusha. There's no I to merge, but merging happens, if you will, of Prakriti. So that is this beautiful path to Kaivalya. Thank you for patiently listening. I hope I did justice to this class. These are all very difficult concepts, very abstract concepts. But then they are real. These are the things that make us who we are. And if we don't understand this search for who I am becomes incomplete. And it would be, at best, very confusing. But in order to make this experience real in one lifetime, if you will, the fact that you and I are in this class and examining these concepts means that your consciousness is ready to receive this, and I am ready to share this. So it's a matter of divine orchestration by our own higher selves, your higher self, my higher self. Not that they are different as one self, but we are attracting each other and beginning to unfold our consciousness. That is the beauty of this. Journey is always from I to we to he, the one and all. So, thank you. We will be revisiting this as we go along in this path, but we are laying foundations now to understand these terms and see how they imply, what are the implications of them in our spiritual life. As always, you can always send me a WhatsApp. Please do not try to call. I will not be able to take calls. I get a lot of messages, but I like to hear your feedback, and if there's any thoughts and comments. If it's not too personal, I'll address them in these classes. and try and share it with everyone so that everyone gets the benefit of your comments or your questions. So please feel free to WhatsApp me. My number is on the screen. You can also email me with your questions if you are more comfortable with that. We have a website, kyg.org. Just a simple standard website with links to YouTube and Facebook videos. So, having said that, let us bring this class to an end with one Om and three Shantis. You have a lot to contemplate and meditate upon. Think of the five koshas and think of this little gem that is hiding beneath them all. Let's end this class. Thank you. Until we meet again next Wednesday, have a blessed time. Stay safe.